The Urban Impact Show is sponsored by Green and Wood Media Services. Green and Wood uses digital media to help businesses, political campaigns, and organizations grow while increasing their community impact. Green and Wood Media is pleased to offer a digital media buying fellowship to train, develop, and mentor young people interested in digital media, politics, and advertising. Learn more at greenandwoodmedia.com.
Hey, 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 hey. Hey, 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 hey. Black excellence, black beauty, and black pride. Black power from all diasporas coincide. Progressive truth and regression eventually collide. May the beauty of the people no longer be set aside. May the black queen's grace continually mesmerize the millions who couldn't see it when looking into her eyes. And the black man's plight no longer be the disguise. Oppression, emasculation, they wanna castricize him. Take him away from the black queen, put him inside prison for slave labor, he institutionalized. Wondering on the outside, is she willing to ride? Is she willing to ride? Is she willing to fight for the love, even despite the fact that he doing time? Love that conquers all will never fade with time. If she don't choose the love that appreciates every life, his flame might get dim and he may.
Hey everybody, welcome to the Urban Impact Show, and thank you so much for taking time out of your day to join us once again. I'm your host, Rob Johnson.
And I'm Brittany Dudley.
Miss
Impact Show.
Miss Britt, what's up, girl? How you doing?
Good. How are you?
I feel like I haven't seen you because we didn't do last week's show. You was here last week with
done 2 weeks.
Right, because Miguel, your son Miguel, was here last week, and the kids was here doing their thing, right?
It was awesome. They did better than us.
You know what? I thought so. My niece really enjoyed it, and really, she was here because just a little bit of background. My niece Sanaya comes to me and she says, "Uncle, I want to do a show. Y'all doing everybody else's, y'all talking to everybody else, but you haven't talked to me."
What the kids do?
And so I was like, "No, I'm okay. Like, I'm not gonna do that." And then she was like, "No, like that's unfair," right? So she pushed back, and I was proud of her. So I was like, "You know what? All right, fine." Then we found out that Miguel was the same age as her, so we said, "You know what? Let's do it." So then we brought in 4 kids. We brought in 4 kids. Yeah, I know. Sanaya says to me every day, I'm sure she probably talks to Madison too. Yeah. And she's, Madison, if she gets Madison on board, I'm doomed after that, because that's they control how this thing goes. So everybody, thank you so much for watching. For the next 30 minutes, I need y'all to tune in really quickly, because we're getting ready to discuss some stuff that really does matter. And I want people to understand the reason why we do this stuff, because somebody said to me on Facebook, they sent the message after we did the show with the Des Moines school board candidates, right? They sent the message and they was like, we want to know more about these individuals, because I'm not going to have time to do research. Yeah. Like, I'm going to just base it off of what I see. They said I'm not going to go out here and do a whole bunch of stuff. If I like the person, then I'm going to say yes. If I don't, then I'm going to say no. And I said, you know what? That's probably 80% of the people out here. So I'm like, you know what? Let's figure out, how do we get the right people here? So what we've done, everybody, is we've invited every single gubernatorial candidate that has announced that they're running for governor of the state of Iowa to come to the Urban Impact Show, and every single one of them have said yes. So yes, we will have Ross Smith on. Yes, we will have Governor Reynolds on. But today, for the next 30 minutes, I need everybody to press the share button right now, because for the next 30 minutes, we're getting ready to have a great conversation with gubernatorial candidate Miss DeJear. And so we're going to pass the mic to her and let her introduce herself. So what's up, Deidre?
Hello, I'm happy to be back on the Urban Impact Show.
That's right. You've been here.
Different.
Yeah. Yeah. So you're no stranger to this. You know exactly how this goes. So do me a favor. Will you just introduce yourself to the people? Let them know who you are, Absolutely. What you're running for.
Absolutely. So my name is Deidre DeJear. For those folks who are watching, who I haven't had an opportunity to connect with. Before I even start talking, I'm just going to ask you to share this right now. I'm looking at this camera. I want you to share this right now, because I think it's important for us to share the good that exists in our community. And right now we're about to talk about something that's incredibly important. We're about to talk about you. I'm running for governor, but I'm running for governor for people like you. We've been sold this dream for so long, and you might have heard this term that we have to rob Peter to pay Paul. Essentially, we have to take from someone else to give to another, and that is not the case. And we have leadership that's leading this state in such a way that they're leading us to believe that's what's necessary. And so I'm running because there's issues that people like you are experiencing every single day. You know, you've got a job that's not paying you enough. You've got a job that if they are paying you enough, you got to work so much that you don't get an opportunity to be with your family. You don't have an opportunity to buy a home. You know, you're going to the doctor, or you're even scared to go to the doctor because you're afraid that that bill you're not going to be able to afford is going to set you back, that you're better off sick. You know, I see people every single day throughout this community and throughout this entire state facing those types of issues. What I'm running for governor for is to make sure that you as an individual have a clear pathway to pursue your life, your liberty, and whatever happiness looks like for you. I want to ensure that government is not in the way, that we are not creating barriers, that we are uplifting people like you and putting you first, because that is what we are supposed to be doing as leaders. And we've been sold this dream that it's about other stuff. No, it is about you. And I'm running because you matter to me, and you matter to the state, you matter to your family. And I'm going to make sure that you have access to do whatever you want to do, as long as it doesn't infringe on the rights of anybody else, right? That you have the right to do whatever you want to do in this life, and government's going to get out of your way in the process.
So, Brittany, I know you had a couple questions for Deidre, right?
So I guess just to kind of start things, off, you know, you told us a little bit more about yourself, and then why you. You can go into a little bit more about yourself and then why you.
Absolutely. So I'm originally from Mississippi. I'm not from Iowa. And I went to high school and middle school in Oklahoma. These states are very different.
Yeah. My family.
Oh, really? You know what part?
My grandma lived in Guthrie.
Wow.
And my mom in Edmond, and then my brother also.
So why we just finding this out though, Brittany?
Small world.
I know.
Wow. We had my father had a home care agency in Edmond. That's what took us to Oklahoma. So that's really cool.
Most of my family members went to Langston.
Oh yeah. So on my husband's side, their people went to Langston. So we probably know some of the same people.
Yeah, that's crazy. And as small as like that community is, we probably just.
Yep. Langston HBCU for anybody who doesn't know out there in Oklahoma. But at any rate, I came to Drake because I was a broadcast news and politics major, and I was really interested in this state, not knowing a whole lot about it. You know, my connection to Iowa was as a first grader when I took the Iowa Basic Skills Test. Yep. And we'll talk about that later on too, because I want to revisit that. But when I got to this state, I was just, I was welcomed by, you know, we talk about field of opportunities. I was welcomed by that. It wasn't easy accessing them. It was a challenge accessing them. But Iowa, unlike the states that I was accustomed to, really kind of just there were pathways that were already created. And if they weren't created, that you were allowed to create your path in some form or fashion. And it was something about the people that granted that opportunity. And so I was convinced after the first winter that I was going back down south, because it was a bad winter, a really bad winter. I don't think we've experienced one that bad winter 2004 since then. But needless to say, I came here because of that commitment, and I stayed here because of that commitment to the state. And that's one of the reasons why I'm running. And so when you ask why me, I was fortunate enough as an undergrad to just dive deep into the community. I joined the NAACP. I started a nonprofit. I was Miss Iowa Juneteenth. I was Miss Black Iowa, and had an opportunity to travel throughout the state speaking to young women. And I just completely became invested. I started a small business to help other Iowa small businesses get started. I've worked in workforce development, financial education, and so many other things, all in efforts to help the community in ways in which we saw gaps. And being on that end of the spectrum, seeing where government, again, can sometimes get in the way, systems can get in the way, create barriers, unnecessary challenges for regular everyday people. I'm of the mindset, having had all of this experience, is that we can do something about this. That we don't have to settle and that we don't have to rob anybody. We just got to make sure Paul is good, Peter is good, and Paul is good. And we can do those things given we have leadership. So when people ask why me, I ask, why not? Because I'm of the mindset that I am on this earth to serve other people. And this is an opportunity to serve all Iowans. I know we've had leadership in the past that hasn't done that, has fixated on a select few of individuals. We have leadership that's doing that right now, sending money back to the government that could go to Iowa schools to help Iowa kids, all Iowa kids. Our governor is doing that right now, creating barriers to people who are having problems getting their rent taken care of, forcing them into eviction. Our governor is doing things like that right now. And so I'm running to stop that. Because that leak is now become a drain, and it's draining communities of color. It's draining communities with disabilities, the working poor. And we're not going to grow as a state until we face those challenges. And I'm going to face those challenges head on and bring people together to resolve those challenges. That's why me.
I like that. Do we need to take a break? Are we good? We're good. All right. So let's jump in it. Deidre. So, what do you say to people? People say you're not an elected official. Mm-hmm. You haven't served in government. You don't talk a lot about your resume or about the stuff that you have done. A lot of that stuff people may not even know, right? Mm-hmm. And so somebody may say, "Oh, she has a great name. We know her. We love her personality." But I don't know if she's ready to be my governor. Like, being governor is a big job. Mm-hmm. People who run for governor sometimes end up running for president. Like, how can I tell that you're able to watch the budget, that you're able to look at healthcare, you're able to look at education, you're able to look at how our state patrol operates the state, you're able to look at construction around the state. Like, how do you convince people that you're actually that you're ready for the job?
Sure. So I'll say a couple of things, especially when people say, "Oh, and I don't get this a lot, but I have heard this. Oh, you haven't been an elected official before." Well, Iowa has elected 2 governors who weren't elected officials before. One a Republican, one a Democrat. The Democrat was responsible for something that many of us reap the benefits of right now, is that's serving liquor by the glass. You couldn't do that, and that governor was instrumental in doing that. The Republican governor, who had never been an elected official before, was responsible for the refugee resettlement program. I mean, we know how important our refugees are in the fabric, just the culture that they add to the fabric of our communities. And we had a governor that created that program that then began used all over the state and all over the country. And so, it's not unlike us as Iowans to elect governors who've never been elected officials before. An elected official, being an elected official, is not a requirement for this job. Being people focused, being capable is what's required of this job. And I'm of the mindset that I could do that because I've done it before. It's incredibly important right now that we have leadership that is bringing us together. That's first and foremost incredibly important, because that's the first signal that someone is putting people first. And right now we have a governor that's pulling us apart. She's politicizing COVID. She's politicizing education and so many other things rather than putting people first. And so my inclination to put people first is in the fruits of my labor. I've done that my entire career. I've worked on the other side of government, and I've worked with government. I've worked on federal programs. I've worked on state programs. I've seen the unintended and the intended consequences of government's decision making and how it impacts our most vulnerable people. I've led organizations before. I've led people before, and I'm a problem solver by trade. That's what I prefer to do. I see a problem. I figure out how we can do something to resolve it, even when some people don't want to resolve the problem or acknowledge it. That's what I like to do. do, because I think that we can do hard things when we put our heads together. And just to give you an example, over the course of this pandemic, mind you, I started my business during the recession when folks were getting laid off from their jobs in 2009, 2010. If we can remember that at the start of this pandemic, we saw early on that many of our small businesses were going to be struggling. They weren't going to be able to access the federal funds and the state funds because of their qualifications. And when I'm saying small businesses, I'm really talking about 10 employees or less. And so what I did was I brought together 14 organizations, people who would typically never work with each other, banks and credit unions. They don't always, I mean, they get along, but there's some challenges there because they're in different spaces. I brought together higher education institutions like 4-year and 2-year colleges. I also brought together groups of individuals, Bosnians, Latinx, Blacks, and things of that nature, all to focus on one thing: to make sure our small businesses were going to thrive. These are our barbershops. These are our beauty shops. These are our nail salons. These are our restaurants. These are things that mean a lot to us. But our state and our federal government was behind the ball at that point in time because we were dealing with COVID in helping our small businesses. And so we brought those organizations together, raised nearly $500,000 and helped over 100 businesses throughout the state. And we just didn't give them money. They had access to a financial coach. They had access to a business coach. And so that's what I'm talking about when I'm talking about bringing people together. If you have somebody that can do that in any organization, in whether it's a nonprofit, it's a corporation, or it's state government, that's added value. Because that is how we truly resolve our challenges, is together. We know what it looks like when we try to do it on our own. COVID showed us what that looks like, right? But when we come together collectively on a mission, despite our differences, we can acknowledge them in other spaces. But when you are in that space, focused on a goal and concentrated on that goal, and you have folks that are going to help you reach that goal, man, that's how the magic happens. That is how the magic happens.
So I know Brittany has one, I know she has another question, but I do want to just say really quick, thank y'all so much for tuning in and for watching the Urban Impact Show. Please continue to press that share button. We are live from the studio here in Windsor Heights. The studio is available for private events. If you have an event, please feel free to call or text with questions 515-996 0326. Again, we are live from the studio right here in Windsor Heights, ran by the wonderful Miss Lauren Campbell. Thanks so much for you're watching the Urban Impact Show. And Brittany, back to you. I know you had another question.
Sure. So you did talk a lot about, one of your focuses is people. If you can share with us maybe 2 or 3 of your other, more important focuses to you in support of this position.
Absolutely. So there's 3 big, I have a lot of things that I want to do to help Iowans because we see the challenges that folks are facing. But as it relates to just a few of my priorities, one of them is economic development. We're experiencing a worker shortage. We're experiencing a wage gap. People aren't making enough money to put food on the tables. We're not seeing enough people with assets. We're not seeing enough people, in a position to even pay taxes to help bolster and increase just opportunities within our communities. And so I want Iowa to have a comprehensive economic development plan that's going to increase our wages, put more money into people's pockets. I also want to ensure that we are positioning people in such a way that they only have to work one job, that they don't have to work 2 and 3 jobs to make ends meet. I want to increase the availability of childcare. And I want the state to do what it needs to do to ensure that people that are working in childcare get paid what they need, but that childcare is still affordable for the everyday family. That's a part of economic development. I want to make sure that we're strengthening our cities and increasing opportunities for small businesses. I also want to make sure that we're restoring rural Iowa. If y'all haven't been to rural Iowa anytime in the past several months, several years, we see a lot of job loss there, companies leaving, not coming back. We see small businesses just trying to make ends meet. They're not thriving. We've got to revitalize rural Iowa because those communities communities mean a lot to this state. We also have to make sure that we're bringing people to this state, that we have a governor that people believe in, that they're okay feeling comfortable coming to this state. That's a part of economic development as well. We've got to have our farmers engaged in this process, our corporations, our nonprofits, and our educational institutions, and everybody will be able to see what the vision for this state looks like. We don't know what the vision economically for the state looks like right now, but we will have a comprehensive economic development plan under my leadership so everybody knows where we're headed and everybody can hold me accountable and our communities accountable to making sure that we get there. Education is incredibly important. Our kids are graduating from high school, not able to get a job that's going to feed anybody, let alone themselves. And we've got to do better there. Our education system should be set up in such a way that if somebody wants to graduate and go to college or get a job or go to community college, that they don't have to go to a shelter to sleep or they don't have to sleep in a car. That's incredibly important. I also want to make sure that our students are getting the care that they need as it relates to their education. We got to make sure that teachers are paid their worth. We got teachers going to Nebraska because they pay them more. We got teachers going to Minnesota because they pay them more. Just this past week, there's 250 jobs available in Cedar Rapids School District. Wow. 250 jobs. Just this last week, we had a high school right outside of Des Moines in Sadell that had to close because they didn't have enough educators. Folks, those are indicators to all of us that we are not headed in the right direction. And I want you to know that we don't have to settle for going back. We can interrupt that. There is something we can do about it, given we have different leadership. And the other part is healthcare. We need a healthcare system that is actually going to meet the needs of Iowans in 2021. We have to win, and that includes mental health care. That includes mental health care because we have a state that is not truly funding mental health care to the point where we need access to more counselors, to more psychiatrists. I was in Dubuque, and this gentleman, I sat down to talk to him, and he was sharing his story, a very, very personal story, but he wanted me to know the truth, right? He was working in Illinois because Dubuque is right along the river in northeastern Iowa. And his son called him, 17 years old. I was like, Dad, I'm thinking about harming myself. So he does what any good dad would do and hopped in that car. He drove across the river, went and got his kid, took him to the hospital. Hospital was like, all right, we see there's obviously something happening here. Unfortunately, he can't see a psychiatrist for another 6 months. What? Wow. You know, if we having a heart attack in the ER, they're taking us back. Right. Our heart is just as powerful related to its influence on our body as our heads. And we've got to make sure that we have access to take care of what's happening in between these two ears. Yeah. Right. And so the doctor then goes to say, well, if you really want him to go to a facility, there is a bed 6 hours away. He was telling him to go to Sioux City. You can drive him to Sioux City. His father, they live in Dubuque. You can take him to Sioux City. He's going to be disconnected. That's not logical. Yeah. That's not logical, right? It's unreasonable. And then the other thing that happened, luckily for this father, he was able to see a psychologist in 2 months. We have problems with mental health care. We know COVID ran us even a little bit farther in our minds than we would have liked to gone. We were fearful. We were uncertain. There was just a lot of hoopla and a politicization. We didn't know which side was up, what side was down for many of us throughout this community. And that's, we're having to deal with that. I was just talking to somebody in higher ed yesterday, and they were telling me how their freshmen are really going through a deal. And I'm like, let's unpack that. What do you mean? Well, these freshmen right now were in high school on their senior year, isolated. Didn't know how to connect with anybody, didn't have opportunities unless they were on their phones. Like, it was awkward. Then they get into college, an uncertain space, unknown to them. Nobody is familiar, and they're still going through it. We see more challenges right now with our students and their mental health because COVID dealt us a bit of goods. Yet we have a governor that's politicizing COVID rather than dealing with it.
Yeah.
And that's just not about a vaccination, because vaccinations are important, so on and so forth. But there are other ramifications of this virus and what it's doing to us. So those are the three major things. But of course, I love voting rights, and I believe that we should make voting more accessible, and we're not doing that in this state. And then I also believe that we have to set our criminal justice systems up in such a way that we're truly rehabilitating inmates, and that we're not just sending them back out, not getting the services that they need while they're incarcerated. And we're also decreasing recidivism, meaning they're not going back when they come out. And then we have to work on our community policing to make sure that they're set up for success, but that also goes to mental health, because our cops are now becoming mental health therapists. That is not what they signed up for. And our prisons are becoming mental health beds. And we have to nip that in the bud now, because again, we see the ramifications of our lack of ability to truly fund mental health in this system. Yeah. And the unintended consequences right now is increased incarceration. And we're not going back there, because we know what that looks like. So we have an opportunity. I could go all day, but I'm gonna stop.
Let's do this. So, Deidre, all of that sounds good. Sounds like a utopia almost, right? Can you win?
Absolutely. I sure can. But you know what? I don't win by myself. Mm-hmm. I don't win by myself. Remember, the way that I like to resolve things, and let me stop first. First of all, that's not a utopia. That is a democracy. That is a democracy. What I have described to you is a reasonable request, right? It's a reasonable request, what we are asking for. We are not asking for pie in the sky dreams. We are asking for the old consideration.
Yeah, I just want to live.
Yes.
Well, the little black boy who sang the song, what he said, he said, "Don't shoot. I just want to live." Like that's all I wanted. I just want to live, right?
Yep.
Black moms and moms all over just want to go to work and take their kids to daycare without having to pay a mortgage payment every month, right? You know?
Absolutely. And so it is possible. You know, I'm a Democrat. I didn't say that out front. Because I'm an Iowan before I am a Democrat. I'm a human being before I am a Democrat, but I am a Democrat, and that's the ticket that folks are going to see me on. And so when I talk about not being able to win this by myself, I need people who are in alignment with, I believe we can make this thing happen in our community. I believe that we no longer have to settle for this status quo, because that is not what status quo should look like. I need you to start getting on board now. You know, telling your friends, telling your family members, you know, that we've got a woman running for governor who's going to actually have our back, who's actually going to put us first, put you all first, because that's my mission. That's my goal. That is what I'm trying to accomplish in this. And that is what's possible. The numbers are there. You know, when I look at our numbers in our urban precincts throughout the state, you know, we haven't typically been showing up. But that doesn't mean we won't, right? Because we can, and we will. You know, we also have our communities of color, our Latino brothers and sisters. When I look at those numbers, you know, we haven't necessarily seen the numbers that we need, but we can do better there. You know, that's coming just from the last governor's election in 2018. We also have a great deal of independents that need to turn out. And I know a lot of the focus, especially amongst Democrats, is that we want to focus on the Republicans, where they're doing this and they're saying this and they're doing this. Let them be their authentic self. This campaign is not about changing someone, you know, proving a point to someone. This campaign right now is a fight for common ground. What do we have in common? What are our shared values? What are our shared struggles? How do we make a connection? How do we come together as a group of people who want to see change happen in our communities, who believe in what that change can be? How do we do that? We don't do that by worried about a flag that has a name on it that makes us want to throw up in our mouth. That's not how we do it. We do it by focusing on each other,
Trump flag.
Democrats and independents. Like, let's do this, folks. We can. There's enough of us out there.
So real quick, before we close this out, I know we only have like a couple minutes left. I want to do some rapid fire so you can only answer just really quickly.
He's basically saying I've been talking too much.
No. I just want to, I know it has been. So I want to ask some, I know. I just want to ask some regular questions though, because
Regular question.
yeah, because I know people always want to know a little bit more about people. So let me ask this. What's your favorite color?
Purple.
Purple? Now, from what I understood, is there's like variations of purple. Like, is it lavender?
No. It's purple.
Like royal purple?
Not royal. Royal's a little too
Like
deep.
like your lipstick purple?
No, that's maroonish.
What is these colors? Like,
Great. Okay, Kool-Aid grape.
oh, okay.
Kool-Aid grape. That's the purple I like.
Favorite song?
Ooh, that's a hard one.
Or maybe it's something.
It depends on your day, but like my one of my songs is T.I. Rihanna, Live Your Life. That's a good one.
That is a good one. You own cows?
Yes, I do. My husband and I have cattle. In Oklahoma, though.
And you know, real life cows.
Funny you asked me that because there's pictures of me with them, and I'm feeding them cubes, which is like minerals and things, like a treat for them.
Yeah.
And my hand is in their mouth. And one of my friends texted me once they saw the photo and was like, "Did you Photoshop your hand in that?"
That is too funny.
Why would you put your hand the other way in the couch?
Yeah, I mean, it took my hand essentially. It really did take that.
It's not biting.
No, they're not biting. It was like, like you would give a dog a treat.
Yeah.
Favorite food?
Pizza.
Any particular kind?
Oh, that's why I like pizza, because all things, you can make it all things.
You put pineapple on your pizza?
So there is a pizza where I do chicken,
That's gross, by the
jalapeno, pineapple, and
That's nasty.
chorizo, and it, as the kids say,
that's
it
nasty.
slaps.
I thought they say it's bussin', right?
Oh, it's bussin'. Oh, I hadn't gotten them
that's
in
what
on
they
that
say.
one.
Little Sheldon's gonna call you and let you know that it's bussin'.
But I could have sworn I heard him say it slaps like last.
Who is someone that inspires you?
Man, I'll be honest. I don't have like one person who inspires me. Honestly, people inspire me. I can remember I'm a former basketball coach at Des Moines East. And
shout out to Des Moines.
Des Moines East Starlets, Lady Starlets. But those girls, like every time we went to practice, every time we had a game, I mean, we won that state championship in 2011. Like that was inspiring to me. Going to events and watching our youth, watching our kids be their authentic selves inspires me. Seeing small businesses thrive inspires me. So I get to pick and choose my inspiration that exists throughout our community. I love to see people be creative, going the extra mile, to think outside of the box and to be expressive. That is where I get my energy from. And so when I think of inspiration, I think of what it energizes me. But there's a lot of people that I look up to because it's typically somebody that's done the hard work, that's dug deep and stretched themselves and were selfless along the way. Like that's inspiring to me.
Good. Any final thoughts for Deidre, Brittany?
No, I mean, I was someone who I've heard your name and just kind of before this episode looking to you, but I think your plan is amazing, and I think that as Iowans, we'll be really excited to have someone like you on board, especially with a lot of the changing things that's been going on. I think you align more with what we're looking for. So, good luck in your race.
Final thoughts, Deidre?
So we talk about that change and what's possible and how we look at these challenges and put our heads together to resolve them. These things are not going to happen overnight. Just like me getting elected, the election is less than a year out. And we started 3 months ago because me getting into office, I couldn't just show up and just say, all right, vote for me, because this is a process. It takes time. It takes energy. Once you get me in there, the work that I'm committing to do right now, it will take some time. It won't happen overnight because we are interrupting a system. And we're interrupting that system in efforts for it to function in a way that works for the vast majority of Iowans. That's possible, but it takes time, it takes energy, and it takes continued support. And so I'm not only interested in winning this race, I'm interested in you winning in your life. And it's going to, again, take some work. But I believe firmly that Iowa is worth the work. You are worth this work. I might lose hair. I might lose sleep. I'm getting a little gray eyebrow right here. But it's
That's
worth
funny.
it. I promise it's worth it.
Yeah. Well, thank y'all so much for watching. We have had an amazing time with gubernatorial candidate Ms. DeJear. If you want more information about her, please feel free. We will be posting it on our site. I'm looking at Madison to confirm that, but yes, we will be posting that on our site. You can go to DeJearForIowa.com if you would like to contribute. Oh, TikTok. What's your TikTok handle?
Deidre DeJear. I've got 4 lame TikToks.
Ooh.
If anybody wants to help me on TikTok, come find me.
Ooh.
Last week with the kids, they're all on TikTok.
You know what? I've asked them, those specific kids, and they're just like,
that is true.
you need to ask Uncle Robert.
That is so true.
Because their kids think, oh, because you're talking about voting and politics, I'm not qualified. They don't know their strengths yet, but they're totally qualified. Totally qualified. I'm going to get them one day.
That's funny. Feel free to go to DeJearForIowa.com. Please know that as a show, we cannot publicly endorse or push one candidate over the other. Our job is to make sure that you have the information. So we are excited to also welcome Mr. Ross Smith, who will be joining us, and Governor Kim Reynolds herself, who will also be joining us on the show to discuss their ideas and how they believe that they can make Iowa a better place. You are tuned in right here to the Urban Impact Show. Thank you so much for watching. We'll be right back, and we just finished up with gubernatorial candidate Miss Deidre DeJear. We'll be right back.
The Urban Impact Show is sponsored by Green and Wood Media Services. Green and Wood uses digital media to help businesses, political campaigns, and organizations grow while increasing their community impact. Green and Wood Media is pleased to offer a digital media buying fellowship to train, develop, and mentor young people interested in digital media, politics, and advertising. Learn more at greenandwoodmedia.com.
We've heard people say just crazy things like they're planting a microchip in you.
I'm not going to take that vaccination because I don't know enough about it.
What I've said to them, find the facts and not the fallacies and not the fables that are being told, and find out what's really going on.
I personally know 5 people who died of COVID.
And I tried to explain to them that vaccination is very, very important. I've lost my mom and my aunt. They died a week apart, and I wasn't allowed to even be a part of the service. I had to do it by a video.
We need to do the right thing, which is to go out and get the shot. From birth all the way to kindergarten, to high school, to college, and on and on. If you were in the service, you were probably vaccinated. Why draw the line here?
Hey, I think I can cope with it, but every one of us knows someone or has a loved one that may be struggling with maybe some kind of immunity or health conditions. They have to consider others.
Over 650,000 people, if they could come back from the dead, they would let you know this is important.
Listen to the people in your community that you trust.
You can live with this. See that? You can live with that.
I mean, right now. I feel like it is creating this kind of divide between the vax and the unvax, and then you have some people who are like, they're vaccinated, but they keep it a secret because they don't want to be shunned by family members who are completely against
if
it.
You're not vaccinated. Some people not want to have that conversation because they don't want to go down that. Why aren't you vaccinated?
Yeah, and you know, and you have people who are like, they are really pushing their idea of what they believe you should or should not do. You know, and I'm just like, man, and then you got the different treatment between Kyrie and Aaron Rodgers. Like, look at Kyrie, how they treated Kyrie, look at how they treated Aaron Rodgers. And so it's like, what do we do in these situations when the feelings for whether or not to be vaccinated is so strong? And honestly, I'm really at a loss for words sometimes, because I'm just...
You at a loss for words?
I know, because are y'all laughing like that? That's fun. Wow.
No, but I understand what you're saying, because it's like, I think for me, it's like, do what's best for you and your family. And I'm not going to judge you.
And that's my thing, right? You know, and I don't shun those who don't want to get vaccinated. And I don't shun those who do get vaccinated, because for whatever reason, you made that decision for you.
Yeah.
For you. Yep. You didn't make that decision for somebody else. So I'm just like, oh my God, man, what do we do?
It's going to continue to be a big conversation. I think it's going to continue to be that back and forth.
And it's going to be so politicized.
Oh, yeah.
You know, everybody, it's man.
It's going to come down to different candidates' views on it, too.
And it will. And the crazy part is, you got people who are like, you have Democrats who are like, oh, I'm not voting for a Democrat because the Democrats are pushing the vax, or, you know, I'm going to vote for a Republican because they believe I can choose, or whatever the case may be. And it's like, come on, guys, like we have to just let people do what they feel is best for them
and their family.
It's honestly a sad place to be right now on this whole vax conversation, you know. So yeah.
Well, next week, yes, we'll hear from the experts, people who.
Yeah. Next week we're gonna hear from the Vax Des Moines. And, you know, they're going to come in and they're going to give information and they're going to talk about it. I'll be the first to tell you, I was hesitant at first to do that show, just simply because I didn't want to be someone who was pushing people to do one thing over another.
But I think what you're known for is giving people their information.
Yeah, we had to, right? We had to be able to give people information, but not just info, but factual information.
Absolutely.
Because I feel like there's a lot of information out there that's not factual.
And I think that's kind of what's turning people away too, because it's like, do I know? Do I believe this?
Yeah.
You know, is this believable? So I think next week's show we will go into that a little bit more in more detail and give more facts and continue the conversation on vaccinations.
Yeah. Final thoughts before we head out.
Today was awesome. Like I really am happy that we got to hear Deidre and
me too.
talk through what her priorities are. I think that's great to kind of start the conversation on for Des Moines to know and understand what the candidates that are running for governor. Yeah. And I'm excited to see, you know, how the conversation goes next week.
Yeah. Well, hey, thank y'all so much. And shout out to you who have been watching and sharing. We cannot tell you thank you enough. We love and appreciate you.
Thank you.
Today we had DeJear on. Deidre was on and she discussed some really amazing thoughts about what she believes. We're excited to welcome Rod Smith, who is another gubernatorial candidate, and of course Governor Kim Reynolds herself as well. With that being said, we're getting ready to head out, but before we go, I always like to remind you, our viewers and those who will watch this, that you are important. Mental health is very, very key and important. And so whatever you do, please remember that you are valued, you are valued, you are valuable, and you are loved. We appreciate you, and we'll see you next week as we dig into this vaccination conversation.
See you guys next week.
See you next week. Thanks for watching the Urban Impact Show.